Mūsų karta pirmoji, supratusi, kaip iš lėto kenkiame gamtai. Ir vienintelė, žinanti, kad dar yra laiko ją išsaugoti. Apsaugokime mūsų visų ateitį. Ergo.
The laws of physics, the laws of life. Laws connect everything. We think that to be legal advisors, we must live under the same philosophy, adapting to connect and connecting to adapt.
Nepraleiskite laiko veltui. Nauji kino festivaliuose kritikus ir žiūrovus sužavėję filmai. Elito kinas. Ketvirtadienio vakarais per LRT+.
Kad būtum, reikia kito. Kino Pavasaris. Kovo 24, balandžio 3 dienomis visoje Lietuvoje. Didysis partneris Ergo draudimo grupė. Informaciniai partneriai LRT 15 min žmonės.
Labas vakaras. Šį vakarą man didelė garbė pristatyti ir sujungti šituo virtualiu tiltu Kino Pavasario žiūrovus ir vieno iš meistrų sekcijos, meistrų programos, tokio vieno ypatingiausių filmų. Norėčiau pakalbėti apie Marguerite Duras, režisierę Claire Simon. Claire, welcome to Vilnius, even through these virtual bridges, but we are very happy that you are here with us.
Thank you, me too. It's a miracle.
Thank you so much for the effort. And I would like to start with a couple of questions from my side, but then here we have an audience and I will quickly open up for their questions too. But first of all, I read somewhere very beautiful and interesting actually statement made by you, where you said that every film and each, like all cinema is documentary. And if it's not a documentary, then it does not interest you. I was wondering if you could elaborate on that, because also in relation with this film, it's very special. It's very, difficult to define it as a documentary or as a fiction film. It's lurking somewhere in between. So what is it actually documentary, and what is I want to talk about in terms of genre?
Well, this is a conversation I want to talk about Duras, which has happened. Mainly documentaries about what has happened, what is true in a way, but the truth is not given immediately. It's something that you built. So this film is like an archive that was missing. And my interest in it was that I found the discussion very interesting, and I'm sorry, this is a nightmare where I am. Sorry. I lost my thread. This is a missing archive. And on the other hand, I wanted to show that it's possible to use an interview as a sort of thread to build a story, because the story is there. It's an incredible, beautiful story, and that it can be another form to make a film. Usually people, when they do adaptation, they turn sentences into shots. Well, this is not. This is more. I wanted that everyone could hear the incredible dialogue that is in that interview, and I wanted to make it a film and to show that sometimes when you hear someone in a conversation, you see what he says or what she says. And this is the idea, is a conversation is not something that is un-cinematographic. It is a very important part of life. And that's why.
Since it's the film is actually made out of one tape that was for a long time not available in public, but then it was transcribed by the sister of the main protagonist in this film. I wonder if you could go back in your memory to the moment when you first discovered this conversation. Was it in the book or was it the actual tapes? And if you could think of the one
tapes.
If you could
never heard the tapes. It was the tapes were listened and transcribed by this the sister of NORÇIAU, and it was published 2 years after his death, or 1 year. It was 2016, and that's when I discovered it.
Do you remember what was the immediate, I don't know, what actually hooked you most in that conversation that moved you into making it into the film?
Well, because
language?
it's a sort of reverse situation. It's a reverse situation of thousands of women have been in the situation of this guy, and thousands of men are in the situation of Marguerite Duras, except they're not all great writers. But the reverse situation was very interesting because I felt that he was very bright and very precise in the way he was explaining his submission. It's very rare to have such a in the books of women who have been dominated, I would say. It's very. I've never seen someone writing, "Why do I accept it? Why do I give up and I accept?" And this is what he has the bravery to do that, to say that, and I found it extraordinary. And also, I'm very interested in people who are in situation of weakness. They can be very intelligent and weak, and this is something that it's difficult to. I wanted to say that you can be weak and intelligent.
Mm-hmm. And when it comes to opposite situation, it's I think it's not only gender-wise that usually the woman is in this weaker situation, and she's somehow being abused by the men, and so on and so here we see an opposite situation. But I was thinking that the movie also tackles very importantly the issues of the genius and the fandom, and I was wondering if you were aiming to comment on that and to elaborate on this very, very tense and at the same time incredibly interesting relationship between the fan and someone that he or she is admiring. This is in a way something that is going down in a way, fandom somehow belongs to the past, to my opinion at least.
Yeah, and also it's of course the genius and the fan, but it's also the question of the celebrity and immortality. He is very interested in being. I'm sorry. This is. He's very interested in the fact of immortality by being with her, and immortality being given by celebrity in a way. And I think this is also a very actual topic. A lot of people are completely taken by the question of celebrity. It is so general. Of course, he measures all the time the difference between her and him in terms of writing, in terms of, of course.
Since the conversation was actually reenacted in your film, I was wondering what were your methods, and maybe you could also speak about the methods of the actors, how to go into these figures that not like Marguerite Duras, they haven't got that many, books written about them. Like, how did you find out about the characters of Ian, but also the journalist itself, and how did you create them on the screen?
Well, the actors were my first choice, and I had the luck of having my first choice, and I thought they were very good, and we read a little bit all together, and then I was sure it would happen on the set more, because also at the beginning I was not sure of that, but then we did really very, very long shots, like 35, 45 minutes, the whole interview. So then there comes something that becomes true in the fact of listening, in the fact of talking, even for me, who is the camera woman, to how to frame during 45 minutes. So something is getting very true there. It's not only that, of course, we decided several things, and I was very interested by the character of Michel Manceau, because of course, as she's not very well known, and she was a journalist and a writer, but then she was empty enough for me to represent any journalist or even me as someone who is listening, and because of her listening, everything is created. It's because she listens that he can talk. It's absolutely fundamental. And also that's why I wanted to film her as much as I filmed Jan. Because I think for cinema to have a real scene, you have to do it with the person that is listening, because otherwise it's not interesting. Because on the face of the person who is listening, you are thinking, what does she think? Or maybe she's seduced by him, or she's not. She does, and you can see all that. And then there is a scene between those two.
Maybe there are already questions in the audience. Another thing that I was really curious is that, it's really challenging to make a feature-length film which lasts for 1 hour, if I'm not mistaken, 40 minutes or something like this, like only out from the conversation. And of course, it all depends on the talent of the actors. But then you also choose to implement it with some archival footage. But another very, very interesting formalistic decision was the animation inserts, the drawings. I wonder if you could comment on how, at which stage it sort of stepped in the film, and what was the intention behind including them?
Yeah, well, I think I'm not. I don't believe in purity. I like hybrid. I think we are all mixing lots of different kinds of images in our mind. So I decided that Duras would be in a reel as an archive, because she was a sort of expression of reality because it was her. It was her books, it was her... and he says that in the interview, that he was so disappointed it was not her real name and everything. So, yes, and it was a sort of... having these archives was a sort of level of truthness, of truth, because all the rest was refabricated, redone. Of course, I wanted to have those two extracts of the films of Duras, India Song and Agatha, because I felt they were really very important in the film. And I made a lot of scenes that he was telling about, because I had this feeling that when you listen to someone, then you see the scenes. So I wanted her, Michel Manceau, to try to see a lot of things while she was listening. And the film was what she was trying to see.
Are there questions in the audience? No, then I want to talk about Duras, actually. Because we talked about them as human beings and the tense relationship between them and so on, and also between the journalist and Ian. But I was wondering, like, what was... because obviously this is, like, we see something that I believe it was not well known about Duras. Like, we see the darker side of her character and the behavior, which is actually for people that don't know that much about the writer, that just read books. For example, me, I always imagine her to be like a very, very tender and in a way completely different person than what we see in the conversation of Ian. I was wondering if it was at all any surprise for you to discover this side of Marguerite Duras, and what do you think about, like, in general, this opening up of very, very intimate parts of figures that are world famous? I hope I was clear with my question.
Yeah. Well, the real problem is more that she's dominant because she's older, because she's a great writer, because she's... and but yet this is not an obstacle to have a real love affair with. So I feel her more in that discussion with herself. She wants to be she loves really Jan very strongly, and but she's not going to give up writing or anything to be with him. So this is more that, and I think that she wants a perfect love, and this makes you very naughty when you want perfection. But I like the fact that she is torn between being dominant and wanting to be a woman that wants to be fucked, wants to be... he says at one point, she says the words, she's got the truth, but she's like a man, but it doesn't please her.
Like, even though the situation is like very, like, as we already said, opposite to the ones that we normally see, but I actually see this film as a really strongly feminist film. Like, even though
it is.
Well, and it's like post-Me Too world where we discuss all these things and so on, but then because of the opposite situation, usually it would be like from the first sight, maybe you wouldn't call it a feminist film, but then when you think about it, little bit longer, then it's. I think it's a very, very bold statement also about what about the women's sexuality and what actually woman is.
And you asked about the drawings. I thought it was very important to show the sexuality, and I couldn't do it. I could only do it with drawings because it's fiction, of course. But we worked a lot with Judith Fragile, who did the drawings to get this movement of passion, of love, very sexual but movement. And it was very important for me to show that it was because sometimes people who were aware of this relationship, they felt that it was a sort of grandmother with her grandchild, which is not really what he explains.
And maybe for the ending, I would like to ask just one very short question about the ending of the film, because in a way, like the music that is used for the last moments of the film, it differs very strongly from the rest of the film. Why its energy? Maybe you can say a little bit about it.
Because it was the music of the gay clubs in the 80s. Well, I asked the musician to do that, to be the other side, because the gay club. It's the kind of, I didn't want it to be very sad, the ending, and so I asked the musician to make a gay club music.
It's a beautiful liberation for Ian, I think, the ending of the film. Well, Claire, thank you so much for joining us. I hope next time it's going to be in real presence here in Vilnius.
Me too, and I think you are very brave in Vilnius, and I admire you.
So we look forward for your next films. And
thank you very much.
Take care. Thank you so much.
Kad būtum, reikia kito. Kino Pavasaris. Kovo 24, balandžio 3 dienomis visoje Lietuvoje. Didysis partneris Ergo draudimo grupė. Informaciniai partneriai LRT 15 min žmonės.